Okay, with the sound of the bell, we'll call the March 16th, 2026 Town of Somerville Planning Commission to order. First order of business is oath of office, Ms. Beth.
I think I only have a couple to do tonight. If I didn't swear you in at the last meeting, if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I'm duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been appointed, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. So help me God. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next order of business, the approval of minutes from the meeting on February 23rd. Are there any additions or changes that need to be made to those? Hearing none, they stand approved as read or submitted, distributed. We'll get it right in a minute. Next thing is public hearings. First public hearing is a petition by ambassadors of 1857 to annex TMS number 14400000082, located at Loudon Drive and King Charles Circle, totaling approximately 4.26 acres, currently zoned transitional residential district in Dorchester County, requested to be zoned multifamily residential following annexation into the town of Somerville municipal limits, Council District 5. There's someone here from the ambassadors that wants to speak to this.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Helmley, and I'm a founding member of Somerville Methodist Church. Somerville Methodist Church is the organization that the ambassadors of 1857 created as the church. The ambassadors of 1857 doing business as Somerville Methodist Church. So I want to make sure you understood that entity. I'm also a member of our governance committee, whose job it is to write our Constitution and bylaws for approval by our entire membership. I'm here today to speak in favor of our church's zoning request for our newly acquired church site at Loudon Road and King Charles Circle. The requested zoning classification is MFR, which permits the building of a church. The zoning classification was selected with the advice of staff at the town of Somerville. There are people here today who want to object to that zoning classification, and I can understand their concerns. They successfully persuaded the town council to deny that same zoning classification for construction of a large apartment complex not long ago. And I want to say that we owe those residents an extreme debt of gratitude, because without their community activism, Somerville Methodist Church would not have had the opportunity to purchase the land on which we are building our church. So on behalf of our entire congregation, I want to say thank you. I also want to mention that there was a concern, or perhaps remains a concern, about what would happen to our church under that MFR designation if our church were to fail. I'd like to offer you copies of two documents, very small, that distinguish our zoning request from that of the apartment developer. Because they include restrictions as to what we can do with that property should our church have to dissolve. I'd also, with your permission, like to read into the record the documents themselves. Would that be all right?
Go ahead.
So the first is our Articles of Incorporation. And the Articles of Incorporation were to the Secretary of State, approved by the Secretary of State on December the 4th, 6th, 2024. And because we are a religious institution to be operated as a church, there's a paragraph, if you'll see it on page 2 of those articles, that says the following. Upon dissolution of the corporation, assets shall be distributed for one or more exempt purposes within the meaning of section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, or the corresponding section of any future federal tax code, or shall be distributed to the federal government or to a state or local government for a public purpose. So you'll see that we can't sell that property, even if we wanted to a private entity such as an apartment complex. The second item I want to read into the record is actually Article 9 from our church constitution, which further amplifies how that is restricted as to distribution of assets in the event of dissolution. In the event of the dissolution of the church, all assets and liabilities shall be distributed to one or more organizations that are in agreement with the church's normative standards of Christian belief and normative standards of Wesleyan teaching and are tax exempt under section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. And that was approved by the church in May of 2025. So you'll see that there are restrictions built in that prevent the concern that some people have raised about what would happen if the church were to fail and be dissolved. But I also want to emphasize that we're not going to fail. You know, this has been an amazing story. It's just a blessing from God. You know, we had our first service of any kind that included about 150 people at the pavilion at Somerville Country Club during Advent in 2024. We only had about 150 people, but today we have a temporary place to call home. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has allowed us to rent space and time in their facilities on Gehagen Road. We've hired a minister. He answered the call to be our senior pastor. Pastor Ross Chellis could have gone anywhere he wanted to go, but he chose to come home to Somerville and lead us in our church. I say he chose. I actually believe God chose him for us, and we're very thankful. I also want to emphasize that the church is financially sound. After 1 year of operations, we raised enough through tithes and offerings to meet our entire operating budget and had enough in reserves for 2026. We also raised enough money to make the $400,000 down payment on our loan and pay for the closing cost. We closed on our property on January the 30th of this year. We have over 500 people who are attending our church, starting from 150 to 500, and they keep coming despite uncomfortable seats and no parking and a lousy sound system. They come anyway because they believe that the Bible is the inspired and infallible Word of God.
Okay. So,
We've also, very importantly, already raised over $1 in commitments to help fund our construction cost. Now, we haven't even gone to the general church population to ask for contributions at this point. But
thank you, sir.
But they want to help us. Thank you.
Jesse?
Ross Chellis, pastor of Somerville Methodist Church.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Ross Chellis. I did prepare some things to say, and then I got here and found out I have 3 minutes, and you know how pastors are with time. So I'm going to get to the bulk of it because I did take some time and really put some thought into what I wanted to share, basically covering 3 things. why this property in Newington means a lot to our congregation. Two, why we are before this planning commission today. And then three, and so that's what we're ultimately asking of this commission. But with the remainder of my time, and I know during the question portion, I think I'll have another chance to speak to some of the residents as well. There was a phone call the other day that many of you may have been on with a member of our church who is over this project. And the impression that I got after that phone call was that it was not productive. But I wanted you all to hear from me that I think it was productive, because as I was listening on and others were listening on, we heard your concern, and we took it serious. I think your concerns are valid, and I think they're justified. And so we did spend some time over the weekend really giving consideration to how we can come together and find a way of balance that is fair to everyone. And so this weekend, and I'm thankful for Larry. He took my phone call and he and I were able to have a conversation with a couple of others. And many of you may be familiar with the Frost Poem, A Mending Wall. I believe he and I and some others gathered at the Mending Wall, and we did the work that neighbors can do together to make sure that we're doing, still watching my time, 45 seconds, to do what we can to make sure that your community, first off, knows that we're excited to come and be a part of your community. And that secondly, we want to make sure that we are able to provide something to you beyond just our word that shows we intend to build a church here. It is not our intent. That's what Bill was wanting to speak to as well. We have restrictions in our own language, but I'll let Larry speak to that when he has a chance, if he feels comfortable. But just want you to know with sincerity that we have heard you, and that we are looking forward to being able to figure out what that looks like, so that we're all taken care of and we're all moving in the same direction together. Okay. So all I have for now. Thank you.
Next, I have Tom Nolan.
So I'm a property owner in Newington. I'm happy that the church wants to build a facility on that property. I applauded it as soon as I heard about it. I think it's a great thing. And I certainly appreciate all of the information that they've imparted in this meeting. I think that there is a way for the town to do what they are intending to do, and they could zone this as a institutional, as opposed to multifamily. I think that makes sense. I would not oppose a church. I would not oppose a caveat for the deed that's what's going to be built on the property. Certainly, some churches do have facilities where members may live within the confines of the church. Deacons and so forth may have a facility that they have overnights or even security. That's not a problem. We just want to make sure that what was already turned down in a previous ownership is not something that's going to get approved here, so that we don't have to worry about it in the future. So if we remove the multifamily and turn it into institutional, I think Newington and everybody around is going to be build the church on the mountain. Let's go. Thank you.
Rhoda Klon. Okay. Does Mr. Richard Klon wish to speak? Oh. For clarification, the sign-in was to speak during the public hearing, and if you no longer wish to speak, just say, no, thank you, or I no longer wish to speak. Next, I have Frank Freeman.
I can only echo Mr. Nolan's comments.
Larry Collette.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Collette, and I am the president of Newington Plantation Estates. I'm here representing 549 homeowners. I want to begin by formally welcoming Somerville Methodist Church to our community. We respect and support the intended use of this property to build their sanctuary, and we genuinely want them to be our long-term neighbors. However, we are here today regarding the specific zoning requested for this annexation, which is MFR. The history of this parcel is well documented. This neighborhood previously mobilized to oppose a MFR zoning request here, and the town ultimately agreed that MFR was inappropriate for this specific location. Our concern is not with Somerville Methodist Church. We really want them there. It's the outlier risk. And the outlier is if the unforeseen circumstances ever force the church to alter their plans or sell the property, would an MFR zoning legally permit multifamily? Today, I heard about this document that I had not heard before. And so I appreciate that. I would love a copy of that because I think that clears up a lot. Our risk is MFR. Our risk is what we don't know. It was quoted that they're going to be here 100 years, and I hope they are 100 years here. I won't be around at that time to be at this podium, but we want to make sure that the community is protected. And so there was our first and primary desire was for the property to be granted a different, more appropriate residential zoning designation that matches the character of the area while still allowing the church to build. Second, if MFR must be granted, we requested a restrictive covenant on the deed. It sounds like possibly this document may help achieve that. I don't know. I want to be able to read that and understand that. So I appreciate that. Third, as an alternative to the restrictive covenant, the church in our conversation yesterday had offered the HOA a first right of refusal should they ever decide to sell the land in the future. Again, based on this new document, I don't know how to navigate that landscape yet. But this agreement was reached just hours ago, yesterday. And so my assumption is that attorneys will be drafting this first right of refusal document. We'll be able to review that. Our attorneys will be able to review that. And then we can ensure that our neighborhood remains legally protected against what an MFR zoning would do. So therefore, I would just like to say thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Next, I have Virgil and Sherry. I believe it says Parks, maybe? No need to speak. Okay, thank you. Mark Bacher.
Dear members of the Planning Commission and staff members of the town, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about the annexation request from Somerville Methodist. My name is Mark Bacher, and I'm a longtime resident of Newington Plantation Estates. Last summer, we had the exact same request to annex this property into town as multifamily. This was ultimately rejected unanimously by the Planning Commission and later by Town Council. Thank you for choosing wisely in this past matter. What has changed since then? Well, now we have the local church making requests for the same zoning change. At first, this sounds rather innocent, as a church is not the same as a 180-unit apartment complex. I don't have any opposition to building a church there or welcoming Somerville Methodist as our new neighbors. I do have major concerns on how they're going about it. They don't need multifamily zoning to build a church. It can be easily done in a residential zoning, and variances can be requested for any minor deviations. The church leaders have promised that they intend on being there for 100 years. When asked for deed restrictions that would only allow a church in multifamily zoning, they have refused. They say, trust us, but they're not willing to put this in a binding legal document. Does that sound like someone should trust in? When asked why they don't have properties, that both properties were zoned to residential, we were told that this would be a bad business decision. I don't understand how that's a bad business decision for a church that will be there for 100 years. What other plans or backup plans do they have? To me, it's blatantly obvious. Somerville Methodists wants their cake and eat it too. If their plans would change down the road, they could easily flip this property back to an apartment builder at a huge profit because the dirty work of getting the zoning change has already been done. There would be no recourse for the town or neighborhood. And a right of first refusal for Newington, I think, is a weak position for us because by then it'll be a $3 or $4 million piece of property. And we can't afford that. And we'll have to pass on it. And then it'll go to a developer. That's how it works. Approving this zoning request would be a bad decision for our town. There are other alternatives that allow them to build there without opening Pandora's box for future development projects. The church also mentioned what would happen if the church is dissolved. They only talked about the church being dissolved. There's no restriction on what they can do with the property if the church doesn't dissolve. Where does that leave us in Newington? Nowhere. Please deny this request and thank you for your time. And if there's anybody else in the audience that agrees with this, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Frank Swasty,
Any comment other than ditto to everything that's been settled?
Yeadon Smith,
No need to speak. I agree with the other members.
David Stamps. Jean Brislin,
Ready? Go. My name is Gene Brislin. I'm a longtime resident in Newington. I've been there over 30 years. I also am a civil and structural engineer. So you're going to get more of a technical review from me. That piece of property along there, I'm going to refer to two pieces of property, one along King Charles, the other along Sawmill Branch, which is the other piece of property. They purchased both and they're going to merge them together. That area originally, that piece of property, Mr. Prettyman and Mr. Murphy purchased that piece of property to start the Newington Plantation subdivision. Mr. Prettyman died right after they started that, and it got tied up in probate. So Mr. Murphy went ahead and developed the rest of the subdivision around that piece of property. It was left that way. Mr. Rudd Smith ended up purchasing that. Actually, there's a good little history of the whole process there in the deed. But the question becomes this MFR, right? So I think the neighborhood's very happy that a church is coming there as opposed to a developer. But we didn't anticipate the MFR because if you look at the Bethany Church, it's in a G5R. It's downtown and it's zoned in G5. So we were really and so the discussion has become, well, we need to make it MFR because the other piece of property is MFR. Well, I kind of researched that other piece of property and, in 2005, that's the last it wasn't even in the town, it was in the county. So it's not clear to me, one, because it's taxed agricultural. So I'm not quite sure why that's MFR to begin with. But anyways, that's some history to do some research on. I did a survey of 22 churches in town here in terms of campus size. Inside the town limits, there's 22 churches. The average campus size for the churches is 3 acres. I have one that was 10 acres. The other ones are smaller. This particular piece of property, not the one on King Charles, but the back piece of property actually has 7 acres. I've heard 7 to 12 of highlands that you could be built on. So it's kind of curious that this front piece of property has become so important. But it is for us because it's a matter of risk. And so the risk is both intentional and unintentional. I think the risk for intentionally the church doing something is very low. I'm not worried about that. I don't think they will. I believe them. What I'm worried about is the unintentional consequences that you never know about. And that's where the risk is. And as it was said by Mr. Becker, we have no recourse. If it ends up being MFR, and even if we have these restrictions, I always worry about litigation, and our HOA is not equipped to go into a long litigation battle with the developers about the property. So, our kind of fail-safe button, our emergency button, eject on the plane, is keeping it from MFR, trying to be G5R. And you can do the church stuff in G5R just like Bethany did downtown. That's all I have. Thank you.
Tom Flat.
Just a couple comments. First of all, we hear they want to request a zoning that they don't need, but we haven't heard nothing from the church as why they are requesting that zoning that they do not need. And the only reason possibly for it is to build something multiple zone, that would go on multiple zoning area. And so therefore, we got to question and got to wonder, and from their own statement, they have deep financial pockets. They can build whatever they want on that property once they get the multiple zoning. And we just are opposed as a neighborhood to that. I'm a resident of Newington for over 40 years. I live at 105 Plantation Drive. And what's going to also be a problem is traffic through the neighborhood on Sundays. When you get a congregation of 500 people racing through the neighborhood, and I guarantee you, nobody does 25 miles an hour. They'll be racing through the neighborhood, a good 50% of them. But that's a side fact. That's a problem that we're going to have to accept. But the thing is, we need to know why they need a multiple zoning that they don't really need. What other plans do they have? And they're not giving us any information on that. And it's going to be a real risk to the neighborhood down the road. And again, I urge you to stand by your original zoning thing from a couple months ago and not rezone this property. Thank you.
Jenny, and I'm sorry, I can't read your last name. Mhm.
Just because it was, the first thing I would like to say, well, my name is Jenny Schiavas-Sherry, and I live in Newington Plantation. I've been a land planner for many, many years. Matter of fact, worked for Dorchester County for quite some time. Some of you may or may not remember me. Fondly, I hope. I would like to say that it has been the practice in planning that churches are not good neighbors anymore. They are just a culmination of land uses that lead to, under that umbrella of religious churches, from homeless shelters to assisted living to events for weddings and so many other land uses, that they're just not good neighbors. Majority of the land use codes now are requiring churches to be on collectors, not neighborhood streets. I don't know where the acceptance of the church came from, because this deadline for this meeting is February 18th. The first I heard about the church was February 28th. And one email from the HOA president, so which was very disappointing. And not only those things, but they've already said from the church spokesman that they have already raised over $1 million for their construction and development of this property. And aside from the rezoning, which they obviously don't need, and they're not forthcoming, it's very untrustworthy. And it just leads me to realize that churches are not meant to be in such small neighborhoods. They've said, originally I heard him say he had over 550 members. And that means you can have 550 people coming into that neighborhood on a regular basis. I would share with all of you to take a look at the current calendar for that church and how many meetings they have in 1 month. It's not just Sunday. My church has Bible study, we have dance classes, we have events, and it's on a collector for that reason. Also, they're in the business of, I mean, it's a business. It's not, let's not kid ourselves. If they're not growing, they're dying. So they're going to be looking for more and more and more membership. They're definitely not going to build for yesterday. They're going to build for today. I mean, for the future. And that the calendar that they have on their current website is huge. The last time a church that I was fighting was on Miles Jamison Road, and I don't remember the name of the church, but they proceeded to purchase all of the homes that were on contiguous to their site, demolish them, and make it bigger. And now Miles Jamison Road has a huge traffic jam because nobody would say no to that church. And that's wrong. Land use is now supporting, including the Supreme Court, that this is a land use that needs to be just as carefully reviewed and thought about as far as land use and the intensity of it.
Thank you.
From whether it's a school or a restaurant or a large Walmart.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
I do have two emails that I received that I will now read into the record. Somerville Planning Department. I am surprised and concerned that the town's planning department is already considering another request to zone the parcel of land across from the elementary schools at King Charles Circle as multifamily residential. Recently, the neighborhood, as well as the planning commission and the town council, all agreed that this parcel is not suitable for MFR zoning. Many reasons were given and the town voted overwhelmingly that MFR was inappropriate. It would be hypocritical to change positions now. Apparently, for financial reasons, the church's developer wants to artificially inflate the value of this property as an MFR suitable parcel, and it is not. It is suitable only for residential zoning. Thank you, Randy Sadler, longtime Newington resident. Greetings, Director of Planning Schuler. I appreciate you taking the time to read this email, and at this point in the process, you have heard so much about this situation that it may sound like static. I value your time and my ability to be a part of it. I am writing to encourage you to not change the zoning for the Somerville Methodist Church at Newington to multifamily by refusing the zoning change altogether or enforcing deed restrictions in the event of a sale of the property from the church. I would appreciate you taking a moment to encourage others, town council, mayor Touchberry, and zoning administrators to consider the following. Number one, why does the church need MFR zoning? They can already do anything they want to do without the zoning change. This is a greedy move for a church to try and change this. Even if their reason is a business one to help them navigate forward, they don't need MFR to navigate. You as a council member know this. It is strictly being done as a shady backdoor move. Everyone can see that, and it is really disgraceful for a church to do such devious things. The church does not need multifamily zoning to do church things, period. Number two, zoning change will pull a fast one on us all. We all know how Newington feels about a potential pile of apartments going into that space. You'll recall this past fall when all this started, the massive turnout that took place. We as a neighborhood were so grateful for all of you that saw through the greedy developers' plans, saw that they were not willing to work with us. We were truly appreciative that you sided with us, the community members that voted for you to have your space in the council. We're asking you to please keep the zoning as it is now so that if the church changes their mind, something shifts course, they cannot collect a huge sum of money by a developer swooping in and do what you and I both know isn't wanted or what is right for this parcel of land. Number three, business moves. Why would it matter if both pieces of property have the same zoning if both pieces are now owned by the same church who can do whatever they want without restrictions because they are a church? They want it changed so they can sell it. The church can build whatever they want right now. By changing the zoning, the church can sell, take the money and run, and apartments go up. Number four, Why is MFR zoning bad for this space? We do not need more apartments. I don't think that is the point to make for this argument, but nonetheless, if rezoned to MFR, that could happen. The church folk are simply telling us to rely on faith and have a little faith in them, but what happens when the zoning changes and the church sells and this nightmare becomes true? Shame on the church for using faith in God in such a manner to guilt us into trusting them, but potentially to line their own pockets and collect on their deceit and greed. If zoned MFR, the domino effect will begin. Little by little, more trees and wetlands disappear. The character of Somerville is already fading with the unhinged growth and out of control developments. As a resident and teacher in Newington, the changes that have occurred in the last year are already overwhelming. The traffic through the neighborhood is getting scary. Constant cut-throughs, speeding, and increased noise. Just from the opening of the BGM Parkway, also affiliated with the church. Boy, does that raise some eyebrows. By changing the zoning and allowing the MFR, the increase of students in our already overcrowded, maxed out schools will be almost unbearable. The attendance lines being redrawn from Sand Hill and Beach Hill have put Newington Elementary over capacity, crowded our classrooms, made chaos across the board for our school. Additional families are moving in every day, and our numbers are increasing at an alarming rate with no slowing down in sight. It goes on, but I'm going to stop. Those were the only two I had.
All right. Well, and with that, I will close this public hearing and move on to the next. A proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Section 3.3, Table of Permitted Uses, and Section 3.4.5 E1A, Tobacco Alternative, CBD Alternative Sales Store. Would you like to tell us about this?
Yes, sir. This request was sent to y'all from council to consider, basically to further limit where these tobacco alternative, CBD alternative sales stores are allowed within the town limits. And I do not have anybody signed up for public comment on this one.
All right, in that case, we'll close this and move to the next. Proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 10, Section 10.7.2, temporary freestanding signs erected during an election season, and Section 10.8.3, temporary yard signs.
This was also sent to y'all by council with the change in the state law allowing for early voting 2 weeks in advance of the election date for everyone. This is to avoid confusion in our ordinance. This is how staff has been interpreting the ordinance, but this would actually put that language directly into the ordinance, so it wouldn't require interpretation.
All right. No.
And I have no one signed up for public comment.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing section of the meeting and move to new business. Do we have any new street names?
No, sir, no new street names.
No street names. And the next new business is the petition by ambassadors of 1857 to annex TMS number 14400000082, located at Loudon Drive and King Charles Circle, totaling approximately 4.26 acres, currently zoned TRM, Transitional Residential District in Dorchester County, requested to be zoned MFR, Multifamily Residential, following annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits in Council District 5. Do I have a motion?
I need to recuse myself.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion to pass.
No. You want to?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All right. Discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, you first.
You go.
Mr. Chairman, in the Somerville UDO zoning, a church be built in any one of, I believe, 9 zones. The only place you can't put it is on public land. So any place except Brasilia Park and Gahagan Park and Hutchinson Square, you could put a church. There's no need to change zoning at all whatsoever. If we look at the churches that are down in the historic district, I believe all the churches down there are in residential areas. I know mine is in a residential area. And most of the ones that are there probably also. So I'm having a hard time understanding this need for MFR. In the town's comprehensive plan, it says that this is a single-family residential area identified within the Somerville, our town, our future plan, and in the accompanying land map. I never understood why all that wetland along the sawmill was going to be for multifamily. This isn't Venice. They're not going to build nice little houses with water all around them. It's a swamp. You can see the mosquitoes all come up in a big swarm every summer evening. I think really what it is there for, as for a floodplain, and I believe of the 37 or 42 acres that are there, and it goes way down, I think only 11 of that is stable enough to build anything on. And I don't know why all that wasn't single family like the adjoining houses. It's incompatible with the neighborhood. King Charles is all single family. So I think that should have been single family right along. But that being the case, if you're going to maintain that you need multifamily for this, I will have to vote against the annexation, although I'd love to see you there. It's better than what they were going to put there. But I think this is one of those strange things where the zoning that you're asking for, you could be any place. You don't need it. As for your Article 9 dissolution, I'm in several organizations. We all have a similar dissolution, but it doesn't tell you what happens after any of these groups get the property. That's only for your dissolution. You no longer have it. It moves on to a different group that's similar to yours. But at that point, it's out of your hands and they can do whatever they want. So if it's changed to MFR, that would allow them to do that too, in detriment to the whole neighborhood of Newington. Thank you.
Jesse, I have a question. How did, what other alternatives are there for the church to request zoning wise?
Mr. Carroll is correct. Church is allowed in any zoning district except public lands. The zoning districts that were discussed with me prior to submitting the application were neighborhood business or multifamily residential were the ones primarily that we discussed. I stated that multifamily would make more sense because the existing property is already multifamily and then they could combine the two pieces. Neighborhood business also allows multifamily residential, so it didn't really help with the concern about multifamily residential. Does that answer your question?
Not totally, no.
What other questions do you have?
What's an alternative other than residential for them to request? That would
As I stated, all of the other alternatives that are not residential allow multifamily residential within them, so it wouldn't solve that problem.
okay,
We don't have an institutional zoning. We have public lands,
right.
but we do not have an institutional zoning.
Can you speak?
Can he answer my question?
Yes. All right, sir.
Well, I was hoping to answer his question. But I guess it applies to you.
You'll have to answer mine.
Well, so the response there is, and it's a good one, and it's one that I'm been looking forward to being able to answer for you all, but also to the community as well. So I'm not a businessman. I am a minister, and I'm getting caught up on a lot of this and being educated myself. So my understanding and our sole intention, as we've stated, is to put up a campus. We have a vision long-term for a campus, but for now to begin building a sanctuary space. And in the process of doing that, we have two parcels of property that we purchased, and we're trying to match to the one that's in the town. So it appears that what it appears we're doing is trying to get zoned MFR, multifamily residential, when in truth, what we're attempting to do is match the existing town zone so that we can begin the permitting process. We already have some civil engineers and that kind of stuff. So early on in this process, I kind of got tagged in here at the end because it got to be a bigger issue. But early on, this got delegated out to our committee who are overseeing the property and our future capital campaign and stuff. They worked with the town, and what we were told, since what we're attempting to do is bring a portion of the property into the town, that matching the pre-existing parcel would be the most efficient means to do that. And at the same time, it would not devalue our property in such a way that it would cause conflict with the other contracts that we have on that piece of property, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Specifically by contracts, I mean the bank note.
Well,
Are we gonna get involved? Mike is getting off too.
no, no. The purpose for our questions is if the commission doesn't understand something, they will ask.
As an engineer, though, you say things that aren't true. I need to say something.
Gene, please sit down. Y'all have had your time to speak. If the commission has questions of the applicant, they're allowed to ask the applicant those questions. They merely make a recommendation to council. This is not a final decision by any means, okay? And you can provide that information to council if you so choose after this meeting.
Let me see if I have what I think is going on here. You have one piece of property that is already in town, and it has an MFR zone. You have bought another piece of property and you want to combine the two. Are you going to dissolve the property line between them?
Yes.
So in order to do that, they have to be the same zone, or they have to end up at the same
That's
zone.
what I wanted. That's really what
So that's really what's going on.
that's, okay.
You can have one piece of property with multiple zonings on it.
The town does not allow for multiple zonings on one property, so that is correct. In order to combine the properties, they have to have the same zoning district.
You said that a lot.
Okay.
Any,
Mr. Chair?
sir?
But getting back to the first point, it doesn't matter what zoning you have, you can build a church, can be in anything. So you know, for changing it to MFR, you don't need to do that because you can build anyways. You have that right in any zone going. And churches and religious institutions have a wide berth of variance if things should have to change in the building and things such as that. So there's nothing stopping you at this moment for doing all of that. The zoning can stay as it is and you can continue.
No.
They cannot combine the properties the way it currently sits. It has to have that MFR zoning the way, unless they wanted to also then apply for a rezoning for the property that's already in town, which would be another 3 to 4 month process. My understanding is they wanted to move forward as quickly as possible with building the church.
Anything more?
Yeah, I have one more question. Jesse, the zoning map, the adjoining town of Somerville properties are zoned GR5 and PL, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The orange is GR5 and the green is the public lands.
So all of the tan is actually Dorchester County property.
No, the white.
Yeah, the light tan is is not within the town limits. The brown is the multifamily residential zoning, which is in town here. And then this is also multifamily residential here as well.
Anything else? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor of annexation at MFR? Please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, like sign.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
42.
It was-
Can you ask them to raise your hand as who voted aye?
The two of us.
And Jim.
Yeah.
So that's three and three. Okay. So the motion fails.
Okay.
see
It-
the person sitting here, I don't know if you're one of the commissioners.
Yes,
I did. I voted.
Voted no.
she voted no. So it winds up in a 3-3 tie, which means that it fails. It'll go to council.
Yeah, a tie fails, so it'll go to council with a recommendation to deny.
Okay. The next order of business is the proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Section 3.3, Table of Permitted Uses, in Section 3.4.5, E1A, tobacco alternatives, CBD alternatives, sales.
Hey, everyone, do you please mind not speaking as you leave so that they can continue the meeting? Thank you.
I move for approval.
Second,
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Jesse, does this grandfather existing places that are selling this?
Yes,
How long?
as long as they
Okay.
remain operating, yes, they would be considered then a legal non-conforming use if they're in either DMX or UCMX.
Very good, thank you.
How does this affect things like grocery stores and
No, so to be per the definition, it has to,
Primarily.
yeah, it has to be I think it's 70% or more of their sales and of their display has to be for those types of items. So convenience stores, those types of things can sell vape, CBD, that type of thing. It just can't be over a certain percentage of their sales. It can't be over a certain percentage of their display.
Okay.
okay,
Call for the rest.
anything else? I call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. All right, a proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 10, Section 10.7.2, temporary freestanding signs erected during an election season, and Section 10.8.3, temporary yard signs.
I move for approval.
I have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second,
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Jesse, on this one, it's to extend it into the early voting.
So the way our current ordinance reads, I'll just go to that. Hold on just a second. So the way it reads currently is it allows signs to be put out 30 days prior to the election event, which is why we've been interpreted that includes the early voting because of the wording event rather than election date. And so this is just clarifying that, yes, that it'll be signs are allowed 30 days prior to the start of the 2-week early voting period.
And they have 7 days to retrieve them after the election.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing nothing, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. And
I do not have anything under miscellaneous.
no miscellaneous. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
And
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.